So, you know how much we love to dive into all things wellness and self-improvement here, and you can't really talk about that without talking about sleep, right?
Absolutely, it's foundational.
It really is. And you actually sent over this guide, Sleeping Better is Easy, actually, which I gotta admit, the title alone had me intrigued.
Yeah, it's a catchy one.
It is. And it's packed with like these surprisingly simple hacks, right? So we're gonna dig into some of those today and hopefully help our listeners upgrade their sleep game, because who couldn't use a little more shut-eye?
Right. And what's fascinating is that sleep science has actually come a long way.
Yeah.
There are evidence-based strategies now beyond just the usual, like drink warm milk before bed advice.
Yeah, so we're putting warm milk on the back burner for now.
Interesting. So one of the things this guide jumps right into is the importance of a consistent sleep schedule. And I'll admit, my first thought was, boring, like we've all heard that before. But it stresses that it's surprisingly powerful.
It really is. And it all comes down to hacking your internal clock, essentially. That's your circadian rhythm. And when you stick to a consistent sleep-wake cycle, even on weekends, which can be tough, it keeps that rhythm running smoothly.
Okay, so it's like I'm setting an actual alarm clock for my body to wind down and wake up, not just relying on my brain to figure it out.
Precisely. Consistency is key. Your body just thrives on routine, and sleep is no different.
Okay, that makes sense. But then comes the, I think, trickier part for a lot of us, and that's actually winding down. Like, the hour before bed seems so crucial. It really is, because it's all about signaling to your brain that it's time to transition, right, from go mode to sleep mode. And that's where dimming the lights and avoiding screens, that's where it all becomes super important.
Right, because of that blue light, right. It's like our devices are these little mini suns that are tricking our brains into thinking it's still daytime.
Exactly. And that suppresses melatonin production, which is essentially the dim the lights hormone for our brains.
So realistically, how long before bed should we aim to put away our devices?
Well, Sleeping Better is Easy, actually, recommends at least 30 minutes. You can think of it like a digital curfew for your brain.
A digital curfew, I like that.
No.
So we've got our sleep schedule, we've got our digital curfew in place. Speaking of setting the stage for sleep, let's talk about the actual bedroom. Have you ever noticed how some rooms just feel more restful than others?
Absolutely. And the guide emphasizes this too, especially the importance of temperature. Ideally, you want it around 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, even for me, a slightly cool room always helps me relax. Plus, as a bonus, no more thermostat battles with my partner.
Right. It can actually get pretty heated, those thermostat wars.
They really can.
Yeah.
But it's not just about comfort, right? I mean, tell me more about that.
Well, a cooler room actually helps facilitate the natural drop in body temperature that happens as you fall asleep. So it's actually physiological as well.
Oh, interesting. So it's like actually working with our body's natural processes. Along with temperature, Sleeping Better is Easy, actually. Also highlights the importance of blackout curtains, a comfy mattress, and pillows.
Yeah, it's all about minimizing those sleep disruptors.
Right.
Light, noise, and uncomfortable bed, those things can really sabotage your sleep.
It's true. It's like creating this sleep sanctuary almost. So we've talked about our sleep schedule, winding down the bedroom environment. But what about, and this is a topic I find really interesting, how food and drink affect our sleep?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm guessing it's about more than just that after dinner coffee, right?
You're right. What you consume, especially in those hours leading up to bedtime, it plays a much bigger role than people realize. And Sleeping Better is Easy, actually. Even says that certain foods can actually promote sleep.
Wait, really? Okay, I'm all ears. Fill me in.
Okay, well, the guide specifically mentions almonds and bananas.
Okay.
Both of those are rich in magnesium and potassium, which are known to aid in muscle relaxation.
Okay, I can get behind a bedtime banana or almond snack. That's not too bad. Anything else?
Here's a surprising one, cherries.
Cherries.
Yeah, they naturally contain melatonin.
Oh, wow. I had no idea cherries were a natural source of melatonin. That's fascinating.
Yeah, a small serving a couple of hours before bed, and it could potentially contribute to better sleep.
Like a tasty little sleep aid.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got cherries, bananas. What about the do not eat list before bed? What should we be avoiding?
Well, heavy, greasy meals are a big no-no. They can lead to indigestion, which is just the enemy of good sleep.
Oh yeah, definitely not what you want when you're trying to wind down.
Exactly. And of course, caffeine gets a bad rap, and for good reason. The guide stresses avoiding caffeine in the afternoon and evening. It lingers in your system way longer than you might think, so that after lunch coffee might seem like a good idea at the time, but it could easily come back to haunt you at bedtime.
Oh, you are preaching to the choir. I am very familiar with the afternoon coffee regret. Okay, so we've got our pre-sleep snacks sorted. What about exercise? I know it's good for overall health, but how does it impact sleep?
That's a great question, and it's one that actually comes with some misconceptions. Sleeping Better is Easy, actually. Points out that the timing of exercise, it really matters when it comes to sleep.
So it's not just a case of any exercise is good exercise, at least when it comes to sleep.
Exactly. So regular exercise, generally beneficial, but working out too too close to bedtime can actually make it harder to fall asleep. Because remember, exercise, it's energizing.
Right, it's like telling your body to wind down when it's still buzzing from a workout.
Exactly. The guide recommends aiming for morning or early afternoon workouts to kind of reap those sleep-enhancing benefits.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those of us, myself included, who kind of prefer those evening workouts? Like, is that a lost cause for sleep?
Not at all. Even a light walk in the evening, say 30 minutes or so, can be really beneficial.
So it's all about finding that balance between staying active and not overstimulating your body right before bed.
Exactly, you got it. It's about listening to your body and finding what works best for you.
Okay, that's really helpful to know. Now, speaking of things that can really mess with our sleep, we have to talk about those nights when your mind just won't quit. You know, the dreaded racing thoughts.
Oh, tell me about it.
They are, I think, the ultimate sleep saboteur.
They're a very common culprit for sleeplessness. But sleeping better is easy, actually. Offers some practical solutions. And these come in the form of relaxation techniques. So think of these techniques as kind of like giving your mind permission to power down for the night.
I am all for giving my mind permission to relax because sometimes it really needs it. So tell me more. What kind of techniques?
Well, deep breathing exercises are a great place to start. I mean, they're simple, but they're incredibly effective. The guide also highlights progressive muscle relaxation.
Okay.
And that involves tensing and releasing different muscle groups to relieve tension.
Right. I've heard good things about that one. And I'm also a big fan of journaling, which I know they mention as a way to kind of clear your head before bed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great one. It's all about getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper.
Yeah, like a brain dump before bed.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about a lot of things that can help us sleep, but what about those nights when, you've tried all the things and sleep still feels impossible? What about natural sleep aids?
Yeah, it's important to approach this category with a balanced perspective. They can be helpful, but they're not, a magic cure-all.
Of course, of course. So what does the guide suggest?
Well, they talk about melatonin supplements. Have you ever used those?
I've tried them a few times, actually, mostly while traveling, but I'd love to know more about how they actually work.
Yeah, so melatonin can be useful for those short-term sleep disruptions, like jet lag or, even shift work.
Okay.
And it basically gives your body this gentle nudge towards sleep.
So it's not about forcing sleep, it's more about encouraging it naturally.
Exactly. But it's crucial to use melatonin correctly.
Yeah.
Always talk to your doctor if you have any underlying health conditions before starting any new supplements.
Absolutely, good advice. Are there any other natural sleep aids? Sleeping better is easy, actually? Recommends.
They mentioned chamomile tea, which has those nice calming properties.
Oh, yeah.
And lavender essential oil.
Ooh, lavender. The aroma alone makes me feel sleepy.
Right. A lot of people find that diffusing lavender oil or using like a lavender scented pillow spray, it really promotes relaxation. It's all about creating that calming sensory experience.
I love that. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here. From establishing a consistent sleep schedule to creating the sleep-friendly environment and even exploring, those relaxation techniques and natural sleep aids. It's a lot, but it feels very holistic.
That's what I love about sleeping better is easy, actually. It really highlights that even those small tweaks to our daily habits, our environment, it can make a big difference in our sleep.
I'm already feeling calmer just thinking about all these tips, but we're not done yet. Are you ready to dive even deeper into the science behind sleep?
Oh, absolutely. I find it also fascinating, don't you?
Yeah.
It really is amazing, what we're learning about sleep as the science progresses. It's not just about resting, it's about what's actually happening in our brains and our bodies while we sleep.
Yeah, it's like our brains are throwing a little overnight party and we didn't even get an invitation. But seriously, tell me more about what sleeping better is easy actually says about this whole brain party thing.
Okay, so picture this, right? While you're sound asleep, your brain is hard at work, consolidating memories, repairing cells, and even strengthening the immune system.
Wow, so it's like our brains are doing a serious overnight renovation while we sleep. No wonder we feel so groggy when we don't get enough sleep. It's like trying to function on a construction site.
That is a perfect analogy. And, consistently shortchanging ourselves on sleep, that's like skipping those crucial renovations altogether.
And we all know what happens when we put off important maintenance, right? Yeah. Things start to fall apart.
Right.
Speaking of things falling apart, what about this idea that we can train ourselves to function on less sleep? Is that even possible?
It's a common misconception, and sleeping better is easy, actually debunks it pretty effectively. While some individuals naturally require less sleep than others, for most adults, we're talking 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night.
Okay, so no superhuman 5-hour sleep schedule for us mere mortals.
Not if you want to function at your best. I mean, sure, you might experience that temporary boost in alertness, but it's often followed by, a crash in energy levels levels, focus, and even our ability to think clearly.
So it's not just about feeling tired, it's actually impacting how our brains work, how we think.
Exactly. It's like expecting your phone to last all day on like a 10% charge. It's just not realistic.
That is a great analogy. And speaking of phones, I'm curious about how naps fit into all of this. Is a quick power nap a good thing or a bad thing for our sleep?
It's the age-old question, right?
It really is.
Sleeping better is easy, actually, suggests that short, well-timed naps, they can actually be beneficial for some people.
Okay, short and well-timed being, I'm assuming, the operative words here.
Precisely. They can provide that quick boost in alertness, improve your mood, even enhance cognitive performance, but napping too close to bedtime or for too long, that can actually backfire and interfere with your nighttime sleep.
So it's a delicate balance.
Exactly. The guide recommends limiting naps to 20 to 30 minutes and avoiding them altogether in those hours leading up to bedtime.
Okay, that makes sense. Give your brain a quick refresh without totally throwing off its schedule. Now, before we move on, I have to ask about something that I feel like keeps a lot of us up at night, and that's stress and anxiety. Any tips from Sleeping Better is Easy, actually, on how to quiet those racing thoughts when you're trying to sleep?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because it's no secret that stress and anxiety can truly wreak havoc on our sleep. That's where those relaxation techniques we talked about earlier come into play. Remember, dimming the lights, disconnecting from screens, creating that calming bedtime routine.
Right. It's about really drawing a line in the sand between go mode and rest mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if those racing thoughts are persistent, that's where journaling can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Deep breathing, meditation, anything to give your mind a chance to kind of process and release those anxieties rather than letting them keep you up all night.
So it's almost like creating this calming pre-sleep ritual that signals to your mind and body, okay, it's time to wind down now.
Exactly, yeah.
And speaking of creating a calming environment, one thing that resonated with me from Sleeping Better is Easy, actually, was the emphasis on really engaging all of our senses, not just light, but also sound.
Ah, yes. Creating that calming auditory environment, right? That could involve minimizing noise disruptions or incorporating things like white noise or calming nature sounds. Have you ever tried that?
I am a huge fan of white noise, especially when I'm trying to sleep. It really helps block out those, little distracting sounds that can jolt you awake in the middle of the night.
Right.
And the guide also touches on the sense of smell, too.
Right. Lavender, essential oil, even just making sure your bedroom smells, fresh and clean. It's incredible how much our sense of smell can impact our sleep.
It's true. So really, it's about transforming your bedroom into this multi-sensory sleep sanctuary.
Exactly. And it's a great reminder that, sleep hygiene goes beyond just those basics of a consistent schedule in a dark room. Mm-hmm. It's about creating that holistic, sleep-promoting environment that really engages all of your senses.
I love that. So for our listeners who are maybe feeling a little overwhelmed or maybe even inspired to totally revamp their sleep routine after this, what would you say to them?
You don't have to do everything at once, right? Start with 1 or 2 changes that really resonate with you and then gradually incorporate more as you go. Baby steps.
Baby steps. I love that.
Exactly. Because it's about making those sustainable changes, not adding more stress to your plate. And remember, even those small changes, they can have that ripple effect on your overall sleep quality.
So true. So true. Now, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to circle back to. We've talked a lot about what helps sleep, but what about the things that can really sabotage our sleep without us even realizing it?
Oh, that's a great point. And sleeping better is easy, actually. Definitely dives into that. It's time for some myth busting, I think.
All right, let's talk about those sleep saboteurs, those sneaky things that might be holding us back from really amazing sleep. I'm ready to bust some myths.
Okay, well, one surprising culprit might be lurking right there in your bedroom, even if you've embraced the whole blackout curtains thing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So even a small amount of light exposure, like while you're sleeping, can actually disrupt your sleep cycle. We're talking those tiny LED lights from electronics and such.
Wait, really? Even those tiny little lights, now I'm thinking about my alarm clock, my phone charger, all those little blinking lights.
It's amazing, right? Our brains are so sensitive to light, even when we're asleep. Those little lights can actually mess with your melatonin production and prevent you from reaching those deeper, more restorative stages of sleep.
So those blackout curtains we talked about earlier, even more important than I thought.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps. Now, shifting gears a bit, we were talking earlier about technology and sleep, and of course we touched on those negative impacts of blue light. But I'm curious, do you think technology can actually be used to help our sleep?
It's a great question, especially with all the sleep tracking apps and wearables and gadgets and everything out there these days. It's kind of like a wild west of sleep tech.
Right, it really is. And sleeping better is easy. Actually, you can touch us on this a bit. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So while those sleep tracking gadgets can be really helpful for gathering data on your sleep patterns, it's important to remember They're not a magic solution.
Right, because it's easy to get like caught up in the numbers and start obsessing over every little dip and dive on our sleep graphs.
Exactly. Data should be a tool for self-awareness, not a source of stress. It's about, noticing patterns, maybe making some adjustments to your routine based on what you learn, but not letting it rule your life.
So it's about using technology mindfully to maybe better understand our own sleep, but not letting it become this thing that we're constantly chasing after.
Exactly. Working with it, not against it.
I like that. All right, so as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into sleeping better is easy, actually, I wanted to come back to something you mentioned at the very beginning, this idea of sleep as a foundation for like everything else, for our well-being.
It's so true because sleep, it's not a luxury. It's an essential pillar of our health, just like nutrition and exercise.
And yet so many of us, myself included sometimes, we sacrifice sleep in the name of productivity or, just trying to squeeze more into our days.
It's a recipe for burnout, mentally and physically. When we prioritize sleep, we're not just, investing in a good night's rest. We're investing in our overall health, our mood, our relationships, our work, everything, really.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button each night, allowing our bodies and minds to really recharge and repair so we can actually show up as our best selves.
I love that analogy. It's so true. And it's a powerful message to end on,
Yeah.
Prioritizing sleep, it's not selfish. It's a gift you give yourself, a gift that keeps on giving.
Couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this deep dive into sleeping better is easy, actually. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. So tonight, try incorporating just one tip, maybe dim the lights a little earlier, enjoy that calming cup of chamomile tea, or hey, even indulge in some sleep-promoting cherries.
And most importantly, be kind to yourself. Sleep is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. Until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.